Shalom. Before I get started, I'd just like to give all praises, glory, and honor due unto Yahweh Shemel Shai, and double honors to the apostles and my elders of Great Millstone that do well and that have taught me this truth. And peace and salutations unto the hopeful elect. And may Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai be with the sincere, Akim and Akwath, and may he boost their faith. Also, Kwam Yasha'Allah. Yeah, so today is December 10th, 2019, and this news clip from City News was posted today, and it says, nationwide survey reveals signs of growing racism. And this is situated in Canada here, and this is nationwide, so it ain't getting any better. There's a lot of hate, man. Now, before I get started, I just want to get into the word of racism and really what it means. But let me get in the suffix of ism, because when people think of racism, they just look at it as like black on white hate, right, or hate crimes. That's not what it's all about. There's more to it. It really goes into a system, okay, and this system that we live in, especially here in Canada, it's based upon white supremacy. Okay, white supremacy, that's a system, okay, because it's highly organized and it's ingrained in our society. So it is an actual system, right? That's why you have something called white privilege. You can go look it up yourself. But anyway, let me get into the definition of ism, which is a suffix that pertains to. It says word forming element making nouns implying a practice, system, doctrine, right? And that's all in our society, man. White supremacy, okay, which is a form of racism. It's a system that's created by so-called white people. And you white people, you're known as the nation of Edom, or E. I keep forgetting to use the acronym, but you know what, whatever. It is what it is. You people are who you are. But that's what's practiced. Okay, that's why you have a term called, there's a practice called last hired, first fired when it comes to giving Jake employment. That's a practice. That's a system. That's a doctrine. Okay, if you ain't white, you ain't right. If it ain't white, it ain't right. If you're black, you stay back. If you're brown, stick around. That's all a practice. That's all a part of the system, and that's a doctrine that the people of this nation, Canada, have adopted, man. And it's still you see it in full effect to this very day, man. That's why Jake, like I said earlier, it's very hard for Jake to find employment, especially when they're educated. They always have a chip on their shoulder. When you go into certain places, if you go into a different part of town, and if you're a minority there, you're treated differently. So that's all a system. Don't get it twisted. It's not just about hate crimes and getting beaten down in the street or shot down in the street. It's more to it, right? So it says from French, ismi, or directly from Latin, isma, ismus, says noun ending signifying the practice or teaching of a thing, from the stem of verbs, a verb forming element denoting the doing of the noun or adjective to which it is attached, right? So anyway, that's the actual word for ism, or the definition for the root word. Now when you go into racism, it says here, this meaning of nationalism in no sense implies any consent to the doctrine of racism, which holds that unity of racial origin is the main principle of unity for civil society, right? And that's how our society is. That's why you have certain towns or certain cities, they have more demographic, or a more concentrated demographic of certain racial groups. Like here in Toronto, they like to call it a melting pot But it really isn't a melting pot because people are naturally racist. That's why you have Chinatown, you have Little Italy, you have the ghetto, Jane and Finch, where the tribes are, right? Okay, you have even Eglinton West, which is Little Jamaica, right? Where you have a bunch of Benjamites, where they come together and they have their businesses, right? So racism is ingrained in everybody, and it's okay to be racist. That's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. But what they're talking about is the level of hate and the mixed feelings that is coming about within Canadian society. That's what the survey is showing, and it's growing. People are hating each other even more. So that's what it is. So let's play the clip, and then I'm gonna get into scriptures because the scriptures, it deals with race and it deals with racism because the Lord, He has set up a system that is based upon law, statutes, and commandments for the Israelites to follow, and that has made them separate and even greater and better than all the other nations on the earth. And there's 18 nations in the Bible. Okay, and with these laws, statutes, and commandments that is given to us by Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, it makes us greater. Okay, it makes us have a purpose. Right, so let's play the clip.
A new nationwide survey details how Canadians experience and feel about racism on a day-to-day basis. The Environics Institute for Survey Research worked with a number of universities and national companies to bring what they say is a key look into our country's race relations.
We wanted to generate empirical evidence on how Canadians think about and experience race relations and racism in this country. We're hoping that this research will provide a catalyst or a point of common ground around which stakeholders from different parts of society can come together and perhaps engage in the issue in a constructive way and learn from each other.
It is surprising that this is the first study of its kind which attempts to put academic and intellectual rigor into these questions, to put some hard numbers, and to enable us as a society to see ourselves as we are, rather than perhaps as we might imagine ourselves to be.
The experience with racism by Aboriginal Canadians and by blacks is the most significant. And
you hear that? So it's the most significant when it comes to Aboriginals, which is Ugadites, okay, the Northern Kingdom, and blacks, which are the Southern Kingdom, okay, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. So you experience the most, right? You feel it the most. You feel racism the most, right? So that shows you, one, you're under the curses, and one, you're under the bottom, and it just shows that this is not your rest, and this is not your society. So you are not benefiting from the system that is set up within this nation or this country, right? And that goes back to the curses of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. Let me hit a precept real quick. Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 15, but it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai thy power, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. And that's why you feel this way, because you're overtaken by these curses. And a part of the curses is instead of you being the head, you shall be the tail. Right? That's why you're cursed in the city. That's why you're cursed in the field. That's why you're consumed by these other nations. Okay, and that's why this survey is exposing the way you feel or the way you're treated. It's actually exposing your spiritual condition. And if you have a spiritual eye, you'll see what I'm talking about.
and really overshadows the experiences of other racial minorities. In some ways, our concept of visible minorities has obscured that fact. We consider the Aboriginal issue as somewhat separate from the question of visible minorities, and we consider visible minorities as one large group, ignoring the distinction in the experience of different visible minority groups.
So let's kind of break down what he said. So let's type in the word minority. Let's go into the words, right? So minority. State This is the noun, which a noun relates to a person, place, or thing, right? So what is the place? What is the person? You Israelites. Because Israel is a place before it, well, it's a people before it's a place. Okay, so it's really talking about you tribes, man. Person, place, or thing, a noun. So state or condition of being smaller. That's right, that's what you are. That's why you're the tail. You're smaller. That's why you're not represented. Okay, here it is, you Gadites. You're the first inheritors of this land known as North America, South America, and Central America. You were the founders of this land, right? But yet, you're in a condition of being smaller. You're in a small state. You're not represented the way you should be, right? That's why you're smaller. A sense now obsolete. It says less, lesser, smaller, junior. Yeah. Oh, state of being under legal age, and that's how the tribes are viewed. You're viewed as being. You're like a child, basically. Especially the Israelite man, you're treated like a child in the society. When people look at you, they think you're going to be like a Dennis the Menace. You're public enemy number one. You're going to cause trouble. You need to be supervised, right? And that's exactly how you feel when you go into these other nation stores. They look at you like you're going to steal something. Here it is. You're a grown ass man. It even happens to even older men, who are up in age, men who are in their 60s, 70s. They're treated like they're small, like they're young. Right? So you're a minor. And that's a part of the curses. You shall be the head. No, tail, I mean. Shall be the tail. Be the tail. That's right. So it says, Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 44, he shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. Okay, now when somebody's the head, they make the decisions. They're more significant. And they're viewed as somebody that has more power. They're more grown. Now it says, and thou shalt be the tail. So you're at the end of the body, always getting farted on, always getting the shit end of the stick, according to a brother in the camp named Kazak. When we read the scriptures on the highways, right, a brother read it for him. He's like, that's right, you're the tail, always getting farted on. Okay, always getting the least, always being treated like the least, right? So that's you tribes, man. That represents you, right?
I think it provides us with a nonpartisan, pragmatic, evidence-based platform that we can start a good discussion in a civilized way. Not pointing fingers, this and that. Let's look at what the fact says.
Now the fact says, you heathens, man, you have a lot of nerve, right? Because the tribe of Gad and the other tribes have been pointing this issue out from time. History says otherwise. You other nations, primarily the nation of Edom, you didn't come over here all civilized, right? You stole this land. What do you mean pointing the fingers? You stole this land with violence. You coveted it. Right? So, and you know what this is? This is just Psalms 83. They already know what the issue is. They know what the problems are. But this is just to get, obviously, a consensus, more data on how they can really oppress you. That's just the way I look at it. How could we oppress the Israelites more? Okay, so the stats are high in this area. We need to improve on this. That's how they're looking at it, man. Okay, that's how these devils are. They ain't trying to help anybody, because you notice they're only talking about the symptoms of the problem. They're not really going to the core root of the problem. And you know what? Don't expect them to, because these heathens, these nations, they want you to stay away from your power, which is Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, and they know who you are, and they don't want you to know. So they'll put up this facade like they're doing things to make it to play, bad cop, good cop. Right? You kind of catch my drift. So this is Psalms chapter 83, verse 1. It says, a song or Psalms of Asaph, Keep not thou silence, O power, hold not thy peace, and be not still, O power. And that's what we ask the Lord, be not still. How long? We cry and sigh. Let's get the hell out of here. Okay, be not still. Show these other nations your mighty wrath. Right? It says, verse 2, for lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. Now let's get tumult here. Right. Wow. So this is Hama, right? And it says to murmur, growl, roar, cry aloud, mourn, rage, sound, make noise, tumult, be clamorous, be disquieted, be loud, be moved, to be in stir, be in commotion. Right? It says to rage, war, moan, clamorous. Right? For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. So tumult can be synonymous for making war. Okay, and that's what these enemies, that's what these other nations do. They have made war with the children of Israel to disquiet them, to cause commotion, chaos. Verse 3, they have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. Yeah, and a part of this crafty counsel is this survey that's being done. It's the first time that it's being done, just to get the statistics. Right? This is just a way to see where they can improve on when it comes to oppressing the tribes. That's all it is. This ain't about making Canada a better place, or the world a better place, or to better the tribe situation. That's not what this is about. This is so they can oppress you even more. Verse 4, they have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. That's what they want. They don't want you to know your power. And they set up these little surveys to make it seem like they're doing something for you, like they're trying to make everybody become more aware. But they're really not going to stop it. Right? If they really wanted to stop it, they would tell you who you are as a people. They would tell you who you are, tell you that you're a prince of the power. Go back to the Bible. Stop being around us. And be an Israelite. Serve the law, statutes, and commandments. And it says, for they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. That's why you see all these other nations in there. But you don't see Jake. I haven't seen Jake yet. I haven't seen any Israelites. They're probably there, they're listening, but they're not the ones who organized this. It's really the heathen nations. You have Moab. You have Edom. Okay, you have Elam in there. They have all came together with one consent to figure you tribes out. Now it says, verse 6, the tabernacles of Edom, which is you so-called white people, E, and the Ishmaelites, you Arabs, Moab, and the Hagarenes. Okay, Moab, and then the list goes on, and it's pretty much all the nations of the earth. So now I said earlier that the Lord, he deals with race, he deals with tribes. Okay, so I'm gonna jump around. So I'm gonna start at Genesis 10, and then I'm gonna just jump down to 5 for the sake of time. So Genesis chapter 10 verse 1. Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and unto them were sons born after the flood. Okay, so let me hit 5. By these were, because this goes on to explain the sons and who they are. All right. Verse 5, by these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, every one after his tongue, after their families, in their nations. Okay, so this is a form. This is going into race and nations. That's what the people of the Bible are composed of. Okay, nations, and the Lord set it up that way, and He wanted it divided. Okay, and each family that's on the earth, each nation, they have their own way of doing things, which is a system. And that's why you tribes, you don't fit in, because you're following another way. You're in another nation's system. First of all, the system that you can survive in is the system that Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai set up, which is the law, statutes, and commandments. Right? But our people don't understand that. They just think racism is just you being treated a bad way. But it's much deeper than that. It's actually spiritual. So, yeah, that's all I really want from there. Genesis 10. So let me move to Amos chapter 3, verse 1. Well, actually, let me get Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 1. Now these are the commandments, the statutes, and the judgments which Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, your power, commanded to teach you, that ye might do them in the land whither ye go to possess it. And like I said earlier, Israel is a people before it's a place. So the people have to be practicing the law, statutes, and commandments. Okay, they have to create a system before they can inhabit the land. So you have to be right with the Most High. So now, what I really mean is, this is just going into the system of what you're supposed to do when you're in the land. So there's a system. It's very systematic, and it's very meticulous on how you serve and how you get along and how you take care of yourself while you're the Lord's people. All right. So that's the only way you can really get on top. Now let's get 2nd Esdras chapter 6. Let's start at 56. Actually 55. It says, all this have I spoken before thee, O Lord, because thou madest the world for our sakes. And that's right. This world was made for our sakes. We are the original custodians of the planet Earth. We are the princes of the power. Right? And all you other nations, you're made to really be subjects under us. The Lord made it that way. Okay, and I'm just delivering the message. If you get offended at me, I don't know what to tell you. I'm just reading it out the book. Verse 56, as for the other people which also come of Adam, that's right, because there's other people that came out of Adam, thou hast said that they are nothing, and that's going into the other nations. They are nothing in the sight of the Lord, but be like unto spittle. That's right, a drop of a bucket. And hast likened the abundance of them unto a drop that falleth from a vessel. And now, O Lord, behold, these heathen, which have ever been reputed as nothing, that's right, you other nations, you're nothing, have begun to be lords over us. That's right, so you have begun to be lords over us. That's right, Job 9:24, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. Okay, and guess who's responsible for this at the end of the day? Who is responsible for making all of this happen? The Heavenly Father is. He allowed this to happen. Just remember that. And to devour us. And they have devoured us. That's why we're labeled as minorities. That's us being devoured, man. Let me get the definition. It says state or condition of being smaller. So if you're small, you're insignificant. All right, and it says here, a sense now obsolete. Right, you're obsolete. Let's get the word obsolete. Let's get more synonyms. Obsolete. Out of date, outdated, outmoded, old-fashioned, no longer in use. Right? Out of date. Out of date. That's cold, yo. Anyway, all right. So let's get out. Let's continue on. But we, thy people, whom thou hast called thy firstborn, thy only begotten, and thy fervent lover, are given into their hands. If the world now be made for our sakes, why do we not possess an inheritance with the world? How long shall this endure? And you know what's the answer to that? Because you didn't follow the Lord's system. You didn't believe in the Lord's racism. Because Israel, they always want to be a part of the heathen. They always want to do to do their things contrary to what the Lord told them. Instead of being separate, you would have inherited the whole earth. But because you went away, now you're possessed by these other worlds. That's why you don't have an inheritance. So, I hope this was edifying. Until next time, I just want to give all praises, glory, and honor due unto Yahweh Shem Yoshai, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone at Ruel. Peace and salutations unto the hopeful land. Kwame Yasha Allah, Abad Babal, Shalom.